Villains making returns seems to be something that you guys like to see. Well, I've got some interesting twists on that idea for part 2 of the top 10 villains returns that we just never saw coming. I'm Adam Andrews with Top 10 Nerd, and let's get into it. Also though, be sure to let me know in the comments what is your least favorite comic book character revival. Alright, coming in at number 10, Mar-Vell. Let's start part 2 off a little differently with a hero who returns as a villain. Mar-Vell of the Kree was Marvel Comics' original Captain Mar-Vell, and he was also the first Marvel superhero to permanently pass away when he succumbed to cancer in 1982's The Death of Captain Mar-Vell. The character has reappeared in visions or in flashbacks, and obviously in alternate realities. One of my actual favorites of that is Mar-Vell of the Cancerverse. It's just a really cool and creative idea. Basically, on his famous deathbed, the Many Angled Ones contacted and corrupted the dying Mar-Vell, granting him new powers which he used to transmute the other heroes, and with Mar-Vell as their lord, they took down the Avatar of Death, which in turn completely destroyed Death itself, allowing the Many Angled Ones to invade their reality. Number 9, Jor-El. Good guys coming back as bad guys is fun, but some of you may not have liked this one. Jor-El and his wife Lara are extremely famous for shooting their son Kal-El into space using the last remaining prototype spaceship and allowing themselves to succumb to the destruction of their home planet, Krypton. Kal-El landed on Earth, grew up as Clark Kent, and became Superman. Well, in Superman Volume 3, number 32, we are introduced to a villain known as Mr. Oz. And just to ruin the whole point of Jor-El's sacrifice and kind of the whole mythos of Superman, it turns out that Mr. Oz is Jor-El. As Krypton was crumbling away, Jor-El was whisked away by a mysterious force, who was Dr. Manhattan. Shh, don't tell. He was brought to Earth where he crashed in a war-torn nation where Jor-El was forced to witness the atrocities of man. Jor-El adopted the moniker of Mr. Oz and began manipulating certain events from behind the scenes to try and, I don't know really, make humanity good, I guess? The surprising reveal was not expected, but it wasn't really welcome either. Number 8, the Red Skull. Okay, so there are a few times the Red Skull has reappeared over his comic book life. Actually, there's a lot, but I want to move over to the MCU for this one because when he just happened to be a floating wraith-like being chilling on Vormir in Infinity War, I actually verbally went, what? So, at the end of Captain America, the First Avenger, the Red Skull puts his evil hands on the Tesseract, and it opened up this big old window into space, and the Red Skull started like being ripped all apart to pieces and then shot through that window looking thing. So it turns out that that was actually a wormhole, and he was pulled through it and landed on Vormir, where he became stuck in a state of limbo, and he had no choice but to serve as the Soul Stone Stonekeeper. After Thanos gave up Gamora to gain the stone, Red Skull became free to do whatever he wanted, and so who knows if he'll ever reappear again. Number 7, the Joker. In the Three Jokers story from 2020, 3 crimes were committed on the same night, seemingly all by the Joker. Thanks to Batman's time on the Mobius chair during Darkseid War, he knows that there are indeed 3 Jokers running around Gotham. The original Golden Age Joker, known as the Criminal, the Killing Joke Joker, known as the Clown, and the Silver Age Joker, known as the Comedian. Jason Todd, Barbara Gordon, and Batman himself all team up to go after each Joker one at a time. It doesn't nearly go that smoothly. This is one of the best Joker stories in recent years. It almost feels like it stands alone outside of any kind of continuity. It's incredibly good, and the revelation of 3 different Jokers was something a lot of people just never expected. But what I think is even better than 3 Jokers is the chaotic feeling of not knowing if there was actually 3 or if there is a definitive Joker until the end when you find out. Number 6, Green Goblin. Green Goblin's most despicable act would have to be the passing of Gwen Stacy. It was shocking, and it caused Spider-Man to beat the heck out of him before Gobby was famously impaled by his own glider. Boom. Done. The end. Well, no. Little did anyone know that Norman Osborn was in fact alive and devising a master plan that he hoped would ruin Spider-Man forever. His Goblin formula apparently gave him powerful regenerative abilities which allowed him to survive the impalement, and Norman fled to Europe. Osborn manipulated events from the shadows to have Peter Parker believe he was in fact a clone, and that Ben Reilly, who was a clone, was the original Peter Parker, eventually revealing himself and taking down Ben, who sacrificed himself himself to save Peter. I hope that wasn't too confusing. Riley's body disintegrated, proving that Peter Parker was in fact the real Peter Parker and Spider-Man all along, but by this point everyone had truly accepted that Green Goblin was just out of the picture. Number 5. Doc Ock. Another interesting take on the return of a villain. Doc Ock is near the end of his life, but you never really stop being a villain, so in an incredibly surprising twist, he figures out how to swap minds with Peter Parker. So now, Doc Ock has seemingly defeated his #1 foe and defeated death itself, as he now inhabits Peter Parker's body as the superior Spider-Man. Calling it a return is a bit of a play on words, as he never really leaves for a length of time, but he returns from his imminent demise as his #1 nemesis, and he even kind of outdoes Peter as a hero, if not of a bit of a brutal one. He eventually gives Peter back his body, and after inhabiting a few other bodies, he eventually returns back to his own after a deal with Mephisto. Number 4. Raquel. You may not even know who Raquel is. Well, she was the totally awesome Empress of the Skrull Empire. She took control of the Empire from her father's usurper. She was Empress of the Skrull Empire up until their homeworld's destruction at the hands of Galactus. After this, she was assumed to have perished with the planet back in 1983. Well, no. In 2020's Empire event, it's eventually revealed that Raquel found out about her son, Hulkling, and so she teleported away from the Skrull homeworld before its destruction. She then embedded herself deep in the Kree Empire as Tanalith, a Kree prisoner. She worked her way up the ranks of the Kree with the intention of merging both the Kree and the Skrull empires, but for her own motives. Number 3. Bullseye. The villain Bullseye is actually one of the more brutal villains from Marvel Comics, in my opinion. But this is seemingly proof of that fact. In Daredevil Volume 1, issue number 181 from 1981, that's a lot of ones, Bullseye has been hired by Kingpin only to find himself replaced by Elektra. In his anger, he uses his throwing cards and her own Psi to take her out of the picture permanently. Unfortunately for him, Elektra and Daredevil are very close, and Daredevil is not a fan of this. After a heated battle high on the rooftops, Daredevil lets Bullseye fall to what most thought was his demise. It was honestly really shocking for fans of the hero, but it turns out that instead Bullseye had indeed survived his fall, but was now paralyzed with a broken spine. It wasn't until Deadpool Volume 3 number 34 from 1999 that he gets his bones laced with adamantium by Lord Darkwind, allowing the villain to finally recover and go back to his mercenary duties. Number 2. Kraven the Hunter. In Kraven's Last Hunt, Kraven the Hunter tracked down Spider-Man, beat him up pretty badly, buried him alive, wore his costume, ate some spiders, and then took his own life. Was it messed up? Absolutely it was, but it was also possibly the best comic he'd ever been in until that point, and a big going out moment for the villain. He even got replacements with other members of his family going on to fight Spider-Man. He was gone, done, out of the picture, but then out of nowhere came the Grim Hunt, where that same family, who stepped in to successfully replace him, found a way to revive him using Kane Parker's body, who they thought was Peter Parker. I think it was unexpected because it was just kind of unnecessary and a little convoluted, but the Grim Hunt was cool, so I wasn't really complaining. And in at number 1, the Leader and Abomination. Okay, I'm gonna get like a little meta here, and also I got 2 for 1 in this one, so combo for you guys. The MCU's Incredible Hulk movie has always kind of been a bit of a black sheep. Obviously, Bruce Banner morphed into looking like Mark Ruffalo after previously looking a lot like Edward Norton, but a large majority of the characters, except for Everett Ross, just kind of disappeared from any later MCU stories. But now, thanks to Shang-Chi and the She-Hulk show, we got back Emil Blonsky, aka Abomination, played by Tim Roth. And in the new Captain America movie that is going to be coming out soon, we will also be getting back Samuel Stearns, who started to become the leader at the end of the Hulk movie, and was played by Tim Blake Nelson. Now, what I really want to know is if we are going to get back Ty Burrell playing Doc Samson, because I would love to see him with the green hair. Alrighty, that's all the time I have left. I've been Adam Andrews, you're watching Top 10 Nerd, and until next time, peace out.